Welcome to Hot Topics, and today Andy and I are going to be talking about something quite exciting. Actually, we're talking about elevating your business performance, which is part of the launch for the EYC Academy business learning platform, which is really quite exciting, Andy, isn't it?
It is, Phil. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time in the making, hasn't it? You know, it's been an idea sparked 12 months ago that that we are excited on the basis that the whole aim of what we're trying to do is try and help more people and make it as affordable in the way to do it. So we've to actually see it all to come to fruition is incredibly exciting. And
it is exciting. Yeah, there's still a lot more to do, and we're having some exciting some exciting action behind the scenes, aren't we, to get it all ready? But we're confident that by the time the 11th of June comes, all 6 stages of our elevation process will be in place, and we'll have the EYC Academy all ready to go. And what we're going to do now is just talk a little bit more about one of those key elements, which you and I talk quite a lot about normally on podcasts and whenever we can, which is around the importance of business performance. And I know one of the things I said to you when we first got together and we started talking to clinic owners was that everybody seemed so busy doing what they were doing in their business that they were not really having much time to pay attention to whether or not anything that they were doing was making a difference in business terms. Clearly they could see patients, clients, customers, call them whatever your preference is, were actually walking out the clinic in better shape. But from a business point of view, there's kind of no real understanding as to whether or not as a business they were being successful or not. And I think that's kind of a view you share.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, unfortunately, a lot of business owners, because they're busy, things are going well.
Yeah,
they don't, and that, I don't think that's through fault. That's just through grafting, really, isn't it? They just get their head down, see.
Yeah,
and that's one way to do business. And unfortunately, sometimes when you do that, like you said, you can't see the wood for the trees, or whatever the saying is. That you sometimes things get missed, and unfortunately for us, that can have a massive negative impact on the business of where we then get called in, don't we? To help people. So it's exciting that we're putting all this together, and especially looking at the business performance. And we're starting with this as our first, because it's really, really important for me, and for any business owner, to put the time, effort, and energy into putting some systems in place so you can measure these things on a regular basis.
Definitely. I mean, the scariest thing to me is to think that you might go through a whole year's worth of graft and then leave it to the accountant to tell you at the end of the day whether you made any money or not. And I mean, if it's anything like a typical accountant, 3 or 4 months after your year end, you actually find out whether you've made any money. So you're kind of 18 months into graft and maybe repeating some of the same mistakes that you're making in year 2 or the following financial year that you were making in the year previously, and in all innocence, because you haven't necessarily got the performance framework in place to help you understand whether or not your business is working well.
I think that's it, isn't it? There's always the saying that, well, we hear it a lot. Well, I don't really know much about business because I've not learned it. Well, and that's why, I guess, us putting this academy together and sharing just the basic understandings of what the base principles that you need to be doing, and showing it's not that scary. Actually, when you put some good systems in, they can be there. They can be implemented very easily, very quickly. And then, it doesn't, this is, for me, most important thing is get one of these.
Yeah. The good old-fashioned calculator.
Good old-fashioned calculator.
Also available on smartphones.
Yeah, well, yeah, but, there's something about having a £5, £6 calculator that travel everywhere. Taking the time to just understanding your numbers is just so important, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, and we spend quite a bit of time talking to people about that, and there's some great resources that will be accessible on the Academy platform to share more about that. Might be worth just spending a few moments just thinking about why we would bother. So there's the obvious stuff, but the less obvious for me is you can waste lots of time and energy, can't you, in a business? You can waste lots of resources actually pointing and trying to fix things without necessarily knowing what's wrong in the first place, and therefore whether or not anything that you are doing is making things better, or in some cases can be making things worse. So that's one of the things that kind of strikes me as to why having some basic measures in place is really important.
Yeah, and I think I think it is one of the key things, isn't it? That what we don't want to do, and one of the things that we don't want to see, is watching people wasting time, effort, and energy. You know,
Absolutely.
we'd rather than be spending time with the family or taking some time out, rather than having to just keep plowing on the same way and not having the time to kind of look at the business in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of that comes down to, you know, one, putting systems in place, but two, understanding your role, isn't it? Do you know? And it's the role. I'll always refer back to the E-Myth because it's a book that when I first read, God, 20 years ago, whenever it was, really kind of, you know, and a lot of therapists are good technicians. And, you know, and and so it's, but actually as you become, the role changes, doesn't it? So you need to start changing almost your identity as well.
It does, and I think the interesting thing is that particularly in smaller organisations, you've always got more than one hat on, haven't you? So the complexity in terms of role is you could be the finance person, the salesperson, the marketing person, the clinical director, the business owner. You know, the roles go on, and actually there's quite a bit of, inevitably the thing that needs to be done most urgently is the thing that you pay attention to, don't you? And something like measuring how well you're doing can often be put to the Saturday or the Sunday pile, and then, you know, something else happens and it gets pushed back another week and then another month, and then you think, oh well, I must be doing okay. I've got, you know, the appointment book is full, life is good, and that obviously that's quite a good measure that you've got lots of people coming through the door, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're managing that process efficiently and maximizing the outcomes and generating a good profit as a return.
And I was going to say, can a business be more profitable? You know, just from our own working with the work that we've done, you know, we've got cases where people are working really, really hard, but not making much money. They're now making a lot more money and working less hard. Now, for me, that makes more sense.
A lot more sense. Yeah.
You know, so this is, you know, that's why we would put good performance indicators in, or KPIs in a business, is we want to know, is our effort and reward, you know, what is the effort coming in and what's the reward? And, you know, sometimes by putting the effort in to make better systems and understand these kind of things gets you better reward, doesn't it? And I think that's a really important point that we need to just keep highlighting over and over again.
Sure, I think you're right. Yeah. So let's just take a quick canter in this overview. Then there's six core elements of elevating business performance, and the first one is the one, in a sense, we've kind of been talking about, which is understanding profit, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think, and there's a lot of, I think it's fair to tell the listeners, you know, what we've tried to do with each section is break it down into smaller sections, haven't we? Because obviously, and that's why there's the 6. So understanding profit is the first one. To try and make it a bit easier to kind of find the right place to go. But yeah, I mean, understanding profit, that should be, and for me, it's something that should be monthly, that people should be monitoring. You know, what is the, you know, at least understanding where your break even is. So how many customers do you need to see to pay all your bills and yourself? That should be one of the first things that most businesses should really look for, isn't it?
And I can still remember that really short story of a client we were talking to, and they were working really hard, and they were really proud of what they were doing. And then we got a calculator out, one of your famous £6 calculators, and we did a little bit of number crunching with them, and they found out that, you know, they lost money on everybody they saw, and kind of that was that classic kind of smiley face of look how hard we're working and we're actually building a great business here because more and more people are coming to see us. And yet we then realized that actually they weren't making any money.
Well, they're actually losing money per customer they saw, you know, and I think that's even bigger, isn't it? You know, that's that. So yeah, definitely first one, number one, make sure you understand how much profit that you make, and like I say, taking responsibility of that, not just leaving that down to the accountant.
Yeah, and I think that leads us into the second kind of area for us, which is planning for success. And I mean, as basic as it sounds, a lot of us end up going to work every day and doing what we do almost on autopilot. And we're not necessarily engaging the people around us in how we're shaping and driving the business. So to have some kind of plan, ideally what people might structure as a business plan, which doesn't have to be 100 pages long. In fact, you know, some of the best business plans I've seen are kind of 2 pages. But if you are working with backers, investors, you're looking for loans, then invariably people are going to look for a plan. So it's important that we do some planning and we have a plan and we monitor that plan. I think that's basically what planning for success is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it goes on from that. I mean, if you're looking to bring in a team or you've got a team already, then sometimes a plan is a good way to help communicate your vision across as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, so people,
very much so.
You know, we would always say to, you know, if you're trying to recruit the best people, then some people are ambitious. They would want to know, you know, what is the plan for your business and how's it going to get there? You know, so and it keeps everybody accountable as well, doesn't it? And I think that's another really important thing.
Yeah.
But I think
that moves us on to measuring success, doesn't it?
I was going to say, yeah.
You know, if we've got a plan, our end view would be you've got to have a plan. And if you have a plan, at least you know that you can measure progress against a plan. If you're making it up as you go along, then it's very, very hard to measure whether or not you're actually making any progress or not, which is the notion of the work that we do a lot around key performance indicators working with clients, isn't it?
Yeah.
We give some insight and some great content on the Academy about the what and the how that connects with measuring success.
Yeah, no, and again, that's just, it should be part and parcel of the business, shouldn't it? That you should just have some good key performance indicators to understand, and that makes it all worthwhile. So if you're working really hard and you can keep an eye on them, then you know your plan's going to plan. Absolutely.
And then we move on to what we've called creating your own rules, and this one fascinates me because in therapy world, people will come from different backgrounds. Some of them might well have come from NHS directly. Some of them might have come from straight in from university. You might have been working in another private practice, and everybody brings a different skill set, knowledge, understanding, expectation, quality standards into the business. And if you don't do something about being explicit about what those rules look like and how you want things to be done, then as we find, we end up helping therapy business owners unpick what becomes quite a messy situation where people are working to different standards and rules and procedures.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is, you know, you can't tell somebody off for not doing things the way they want to do if you've never told them what you want, the way you want it to be done. And that's the thing, you know, unfortunately, we're all guilty of making assumptions that because they've got experience, they're going to do things the way that you think things should be done.
Yeah.
So the idea of creating your own rules is just giving clarity of like how you believe your customer experience should be delivered within your organization, so that other people go, oh, okay, I get it, I will do things that way, or there's the discussion around. So I think it's really important, isn't it, that, you know, because then, which brings us on to the other one, if you've set some rules, then you can hold people to account for those. And again, that's something which, you know, you can't hold anyone to account if they don't know what they should be being held to account to.
Absolutely. People don't learn things through osmosis, do they? You know, it's that, you know, you've actually got to be explicit, I think. And I think the other thing that's kind of come out recently around linking the governance piece and the accountability piece is you're going to get people who have trained in different places, who are different age groups. So although we don't major on the academy in terms of clinical practice, because we know there's lots of great sites out there and lots of information that people can get, actually regulating and putting the rules in place and helping everybody have a common way of managing clinical process becomes really important, doesn't it?
Definitely. No, I think, and that's why, like you say, you've got to take the time to put these things in place, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because long term, you want to, as a leader, you want things to run smoothly.
Well, they become the foundations of your future success, really. And
yeah.
Like I'm sure in therapy terms, if you don't put the groundwork in, it's like saying, we've got a client at the moment, haven't we? That's going to do a marathon. You can't just get off the couch and go and run 26 miles. So you have to put the work in to be able to achieve your end goal. And I think, to me, elevating business performance has a similarity to preparing and developing for any major sporting activity.
But also, if you're working as a therapist, if you're working with a client, then there's there's an accountability between you and a client in a rehabilitation journey.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to ask someone to do some exercises and they're going to go, have you done them?
Yeah.
Or not? So there should be accountability in all the journeys. So actually setting that accountability is important if you were working with a customer or with one of your own team members. So, there is a lot of linkage between, actually, we find, don't we, that all the skills that some therapy business owners don't feel like they've actually already got them and they're already developing them. And I think that's what's, it's just being aware of them so they can have the confidence to transfer them over.
And I suppose that brings us to the sixth section in this particular part of the academy, which is around investing for the future. And I think for me, that is about taking the outcome of all of the other 5 components of business performance. Because if you actually have a plan, if you have some indicators, if you're measuring that, and you're engaging your team in that activity, and you're understanding what the analysis of that data looks like over time, then it means that you can put money into the bits that are working and you can change the bits that are not, so that you're maximizing the investment to get the greatest return. And very often we will take shortcuts because we don't have the time to do the work. So we'll put money into places that we think cosmetically might look like be the right thing to do, but actually be, as people would say, just pouring money down the drain.
Yeah. But I guess if you want to grow and develop and stay at the top of your game, then you have to see, investment, or, if it's buying new kit or, investment, but you've got to make profit. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. So that's the whole point of, like you say, you've got to understand the profit bit, point number 1, but then reinvesting that back in also can be the most cost-effective way of doing it. So it's understanding, from start to finish, how you want to do stuff. If you are to the point where, and it might be past your future, it might be that what you're doing is towards, at some point you're putting money away for, if you want to sell the business or move on or retire, because that's the other thing that, still upsets both of us, that people really haven't planned an exit strategy.
No.
So there's just, I've had enough now. Let's give the keys back and let's walk away.
Yeah.
Really important that you look all the time, don't you? To keep.
You do. So I think that's been a quick canter through elevate your business performance, Andy, hasn't it? A key part of the EYC Academy, which, as we said at the start, is going to launch formally on the 11th of June. If you want to find out more, then go to www.elevateyourclinic.com/launch, and we've got a really exciting offer for anybody that's interested before the 11th of June. So I think next week we're going to be talking about sales and marketing. So elevating your sales and marketing, which is second key stage of the academy. So we look forward to joining you again next week to talk all about that. So until then, Andy, keep safe.
Bye-bye.
Take care.